1 square mile of vice and violence. But it wasn't always like that. In the beginning, it was high class and genteel. Luxurious mansions around the harbour foreshore, homes for Sydney's rich and powerful. Times quickly changed. Slums began crawling up the hills. By the early years of last century, King's Cross was Sydney's underbelly, and behind its glossy neon face still is. Those who own the Cross control the game that's acted out in Underbelly, but let's go back a few years. A bit further, to the 1920s and 1930s, when the razor gangs tormented the streets and controlled all aspects of illegal business. Pistols were suddenly outlawed, so the gangs switched to the long, lethal, cutthroat razors. Vicious and feared, they were to do far more damage than the guns. While King's Cross is definitely a man's world now, back then it was monopolised by 2 very powerful women. Tilly Devine ran a vice empire, streetwalkers and brothels. Kate Lee was queen of the illegal booze industry and the cocaine trade.
Tilly and Kate surrounded themselves with ferocious henchmen, some very, very bad customers of the day.
A government crackdown on vice backfired big time. The law said no man could run a brothel.
Tilly Devine took note of that and thought, well, I'm not a man. You can't stop me. And that's what she did. And she became a criminal entrepreneur running brothels that left her one of Sydney's wealthiest women.
Cocaine was freely available.
Until the early 1920s. You could go into a chemist shop and buy cocaine as a nerve soother. Then it was banned and of course it went underground.
By the late 20s, Kate and Tilly were locked in a take-no-prisoners battle for control of the underworld. One of the most violent battles was on Kellett Street. Then, and now, the heart of King's Cross. August 9, 1929.
40 or 50 gangsters aligned to either Kate or Tilly attacked each other.
What, with guns and knives?
Guns, knives, bricks, razors.
And all of it played out here in Kellett Street?
Just around the corner there.
Really?
Yeah.
After their battles, the crooks like to celebrate or lick their wounds here.
Today the Tradesman's Arms is the East Village Hotel in Palmer Street, and it's a very different place today than it was then.
It certainly is, and today it sits on the same old corner, an unassuming pub in an unassuming location. But back then...
Most of the gangsters went there, had too much to drink, and therefore that's a recipe for violence. There were fights.
The more things change, the more they stay the same. Peter Harvey, 9 News.